Okay, so it was Bijan suggested we have a look at Near Protocol, and I think it's a great show because I think it's a really interesting project and an ecosystem that goes with that. And yeah, I think it's well worth talking. It's been on my medium-term holds for probably about 6 or 7 months now. I've not really bought any. I actually haven't bought some this week, but it was one that I was always going to add to. And after doing this research, I just thought now's a great time to start getting into it. So I have done. But what is Near Protocol, and why did I add it to my list? And I don't know if Bijan knows much about it. Don't worry, Bijan, I'm not going to ask you to comment on it. But simply put, Near Protocol is a layer 1 sharded proof of stake blockchain. So it's built with scalability, with low transaction fees, with usability all in mind. Now that sounds like everything you've ever heard in terms of layer 1 blockchains, and why should this one be any different, or why is this one gonna stand out above the rest? And yeah, I completely understand your point there, because you know, a lot of them are proof of stake, and a lot of them allow for, well, they all allow for projects to be built off the back of them. So why necessarily does Near stand out? Well, we'll try and go through some of the things. What I will say, and I'll go over this again, Near Protocol, Near Foundation as well, there's a few terms, and Near Foundation runs the blockchain side of things. They have put out an awful lot of information. You know, their white paper is very detailed. I'm going to talk to you things about Doomslug and Nightshade and all these other terms, which they lay out in incredible detail about what they are. And I'll be honest, it was kind of hard for me to understand it. So it is complicated, but I personally don't necessarily need to fully understand how the Nightshade sharding mechanism works and how they break it down into chunks, and each chunk can be, you know, to me that doesn't necessarily matter. But what they're doing with this and how they're bringing in these extra protocols to run it is, again, it is building on the speed and the scalability of the blockchain, and also keeping those transaction fees super low. So yeah, it's definitely worth digging into. But what I would suggest is, if you want to understand it, is just watch a couple of YouTube videos about it, because the people who actually can go and understand it. But it's very clear that the team know what they're talking about. They do this whiteboard series on YouTube where they get other developers in to talk, you know, for hours on a whiteboard in mass detail about coding and everything else that goes into different projects. And you know, they can kind of use it as a bit of what do you call it, hackathon, to understand things. And I tried watching one, and yeah, it's completely lost on me. So a little bit of an excuse there of it is quite detailed. I will try and cover things as best I can, but if you're into it, great. But what I will say is I'm very impressed with the amount of detail that they have there, and for what I can read and listen to people that I respect in this thing, they're very impressed with it all. And in terms of, you know, they're not trying to hide anything, which is great. So where did I go on? Near Protocol, decentralized open source blockchain platform that aims to provide high performance infrastructure for building decentralized applications. Okay, so it was first conceived back in 2017, but the blockchain actually launched in 2020, and that's run by the Near Foundation. So there's Near that's based in San Francisco. Near Foundation is still run by the same company, but that's actually based in Switzerland. Sorry, my phone's ringing again. So look, so the whole point, as I talked about, is for it to be scalable, it to be secure, and it's definitely one of the more secure blockchains out there, and developer friendly. And you'll see that I think it ticks that box a lot as well. So its consensus mechanism that we use is proof of stake. So that means it is stakeable, obviously. And I've already alluded to the fact that they, I'm going to say are bringing out, because it's not fully out yet, but they've called theirs Nightshade, which effectively allows for those high transactions to take place. maintaining low fees, and fast continuity and confirmation times. I disagree with that, because when I tried to send my NEAR from Binance to my NEAR wallet, it probably took me about 45 minutes. And, you know, most of us were used to transactions happening in about 30 seconds. I was constantly refreshing that screen. And I was only trying to send 0.2 NEAR. I just want to make sure it actually landed before I sent the rest of it. So, yeah, so I've already talked about it. It offers sharding, which effectively is like a, Steve's going to correct me here, but a parallel, let me just move the chat so I can see if people are correcting me, which enables like a parallel process of transactions. So again, building in that scalability that we were talking about. It uses programming language called Rust, which I don't know anything about, but what is interesting is its main competitor, Solana, also uses Rust. So it's interesting that developers who are skilled in program language of Rust may have to choose between which one they want to work on. But apparently, and I'm saying apparently here, Rust is known for its speed and its security. So if anyone in the chat actually knows about that and can correct me on that, then please let me know. It is interoperable with other blockchains, and there are several bridges that have already been established on there, so that's great. You know, it's already got its EVM, which is its Ethereum virtual machine. That's called Aurora, which I briefly spoke about last week. So it can use ERC20 tokens. It's got a bridge called Ardana, which can link to Cardano. It's even got ties with Filecoin, which is a decentralized file storage system, which means that developers can then, you know, use Filecoin and that network to save all of their documentation, their coding, etc. So it's got those relationships in there, which is great to see. Provide an accessible and flexible blockchain infrastructure. You've got a lot of use cases. We're going to have a look at some of the use cases, but you know, there's gaming, there's NFTs, there's social media side of things. Identity management is another one as well. So it's actually got a really well-defined, well-developed ecosystem, which is one of its big positives. Let me have a look. So when it's fully operational, well, this is where you have to sort of, when you read a white paper, there's definitely a bit of gumph that you have to read through. Let's get the white paper open. Here we go. That's not what I was looking for. That one here, was it this one? You see what I mean? Some of this stuff is very complicated. This is all about nightshade. I am not going to go through quadratic sharding with you, or state sharding, but it's all there with lovely little diagrams, etc., as to how it does it. So if that's the kind of thing that floats your boat, then please go through. I just couldn't. I set everything up in an order I want to talk about, and then I've immediately decided I want to do something completely different. And so I'm now trying to find where I put the white paper. This is the white paper. It's not what I was looking for, though. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'll find it when we go on to talk about it. But what they claim is that how they use Nightshade, did I call it? Yeah, Nightshade. And then how that uses its sharding technology, running everything in parallel. In theory, and what they boast is it has unlimited transaction per second, which is a bit of a push. It depends on how many blocks and nodes you're running, blah, blah, blah. I think at the moment they're somewhere between 8,000 and 24,000 transactions per second. But from what I could actually read, when fully operational, they aim to get to 100,000 transactions per second, which is a lot of transactions. Let me have a look. Okay, let's go through. So this is the website. It's near.org. Obviously there's, you know, loads of different things you can click through. The wallet is based in here as well, but there are loads of other wallets if you want to use it. I'm going to go onto the ecosystem a little bit later on. Fairly simple website to navigate through. An awful lot of information is here, which is again great to see. Yeah, low cost, high speed, effortless scale. So 24 million accounts. Transaction fees are less than a cent. Sure. Try to keep it as, and there's about 450,000 transactions daily, which is yeah, pretty impressive. It claims it's climate neutral. I didn't even bother to check it because I normally take that kind of stuff with a pinch of salt. However, if it is what they say it is, and then you're talking about institutional investment later on, and they're going to be looking at ticking certain boxes, this certainly would be catering for that if they can back up what they've said, which I didn't check. We're going to go into the ecosystem a little bit later on. I think that's probably it from its main page. We go into the ecosystem. Now, this is where it gets impressive, and really impressive. So the ecosystem currently has 144 curated projects building on either near Aurora or Octopus ecosystems. Now, as I understand it, 750 of those are actually live and going. So when we talk about a layer 1 protocol, this thing has projects. Okay, so those 450,000 transactions, you got to remember that these projects have to use near to pay for transactions, etc. It's being used. And then we look at some of the sectors it's in: DeFi, NFT, gaming, the Aura, and you can just click on this. So we'll just go into NFT. It's fairly user friendly, which is a good selling point, because they're not always the case. Now, I don't pretend to know hardly any of these, but we can already see in the NFT section side of things. We can just scroll down. There's all of these. You can, I don't know what endemic is. Click on it, find out about it all. And go from there. So it's impressive to see that there's so much development being done on this, which is great to see in terms of just building this out. And I'll get to why I think that's a bit of a benefit later on. Let me just, how did I? Oh, that's fine. Just didn't open up. Let me just close that one. And then you got the Aurora system we talked about, and Octopus as well. And then DeFi side of things, Refine is probably the biggest name we can see there. I have heard of Sweat Economy, which is a bit like, what's that walking one? I can't remember what it was now, but pay to walk or whatever it is, type thing. Whoa, there's been Bijan's gone crazy in the chat. Let's just catch up with these. Short-term bullish on eggs, yep, both hit all-time highs. I read that one. Are you as long-term bearish on real estate as Siam is? I don't really have an opinion necessarily on it, other than the fact of, as interest rates climb, those on variable mortgages, flexible mortgages, whatever you want to call them, are going to be in pain. Same with credit cards. It's just the interest rates are going up. So putting that in the chart necessarily and all that kind of stuff, I don't really follow that. Don't believe this was ever on Siam's radar, but I think last February, Avenger Hanley said he was putting it in his portfolio. Are we talking about near here or Maker? But yeah, it's great. Seeing some billboards and adverts for near in San Francisco and Dubai. Well, San Francisco makes sense because they are based out of there. Haven't talked about the team yet, but one of the founders is a developer from Google and the other one's from Microsoft. So Market Mobster, he's big on a near. So yeah. And perfect, right? Okay, caught up with that. So just going back to some of these bridges and everything else. That Rainbow Bridge is a. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. Where am I at? I'm gutted that let me try and find. It doesn't matter. Light shade. So I don't know if any of you heard of Consensus, which is a company that develops a lot of stuff on the Ethereum network. And what they've been able to do with the relationship and the partnership that they've had with Aurora is just sort of bring that, I was going to say bridge, but of course it is through the Rainbow Bridge, but bridging these two ecosystems together. And one of the biggest things that they've been able to develop from that has been your MetaMask wallet for Aurora near protocol, which MetaMask is the biggest hot wallet. What do you call them? Why had my words just failed me today? Extension. Thank you. Browser extensions that we have. So the fact that they were able to bring that in, so it's not the only thing that they've done, but it's just makes that user experience a lot more seamless. We'll be able to do that. I've lost my notes now. So we talked about the I talked about Ardana, Dragonfly Capital. I didn't bother bringing up their website. You're just gonna have to believe me. Feel free to Google them. They're one of the biggest VC firms in the crypto space. They've invested quite heavily in the protocol. I mean, they have in a lot of other things, as you'd expect. But the fact that they have invested in both Near and Aurora shows that, you know, they see something there, which is good to see. I've mentioned 1,000 projects and apparently over 125 DAOs. Got over 4,000 developers working on these projects. That doesn't seem right. Where did I get that fact from? But a community of 550,000, that makes sense, but I don't believe the 4,000. That must be a typo. It must be 400. 4,000 developers seems like a lot. I'll double check that. Okay, tokenomics. We'll go into tokenomics because I think we kind of talked about that there. So this is it's on CoinMarketCap. CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko are actually pretty aligned with this one, as you would expect for a token, which is 34. So it's pretty high up already. But here it is, Near Protocol. Its ticker is NEAR or Near. You've got the website there. Its current price is $2.24. Its all-time high was around about $20 on the 17th of January 2022. And its all-time lows is about 50 cents right when it sort of launched and listed. So it got down as low as about 128, I think. I can't quite get my mouse to it. Sort of back in January. So we're sitting about $1 higher than where it was. But you can kind of see already that there's potential there for 8 or 9x just to get it back to all-time highs. It's got a current market cap of just under $2 billion at 1.9 billion, and a fully diluted market cap of 2.2 billion. Now this is great because its maximum supply is 1 billion tokens, and we've all, I have to just double check that, 1 billion tokens, and we've got 850 or 860 million already in the circulating supply, which is good. You know, 86% is already out there. So this is something that I wanted to talk about, and I made some notes there, and I need to go into this one here. So with the tokenomics side of things, you know, one of the things you really want to do whenever you are researching a token is have a look at the vesting schedules. Who's locked up and how long they locked up for, etc., etc., because that's important to know. There's no point getting in on something if the early investors are just about to dump on you. But actually, what we can see, I'm looking at this supply schedule down at the bottom, is all of these early investors locked up, and their lockup period ranged from, I think it was like 6 months to 24 months. But the point is that the 24 months has kind of lapsed now, because it kind of lapsed by about October. And what we can see is this sort of staggered release. You know, these steps is them effectively selling their locked up tokens, releasing them to the market. And then we get to where we currently sit at the moment, which is going to be around about in between January and March. Shame it's not an interactive map. And we can actually see that the vast majority of the unlocks have actually occurred. And what we're really facing now, and I'll go into it a little bit later, is that this is an inflationary token at the moment. And so the price of that will continue to inflate by 5% every year. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Why am I mentioning this now? Because if the vast majority of early investors have actually got rid of their tokens, then it means that actually the majority of the tokens in circulating supply are being held by, I don't want to just say retail, but those that have a vested interest in seeing this price grow significantly. But what's also interesting, it was quite a steep, this is quite an aggressive unlocking schedule. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why, whilst it did perform well in the 2021 bull market, it about 10x'd. However, you look at things like Solana and some other layer 1 protocols, and they did well more than 10x. Great English there, Harry. You know, we're talking 30, 50x. And I think one of the reasons perhaps Near Protocol was held back was just its vesting unlocking schedule was quite aggressive. That might have put people off in the future. The good thing about that now is that's behind us. And so when we get another bite of the cherry, and bearing in mind where this price currently sits, and what we see with potential development of the protocol and the blockchain, actually, it may have a lot further reign or space to stretch its legs and go out. So that's something to just sort of bear in mind as such. Let's have a look at some of the other tokenomics. Trading volume. I mean, so when I wrote this trading volume earlier on today, it was at 87 million. Trading volume now is 140 odd million. Even though it says it's down 7%. But there you go. So yeah, so just quickly then touching on the inflation tokenomics. Let's just get to where we were with this. So just to be clear, in the white paper, point number 6, inflation. So inflation is a combination of the payouts to validators, so those that manage that and who we stake with, and the protocol treasury minus the collected transaction fees and a few other near burning mechanisms like the name auction. Overall, the maximum inflation is 5% per year, which can go down over time as the network gets more uses and more transaction fees are burned. It is possible that inflation becomes negative, total supply decreases if there are enough fees burned. And at the moment, I think it's 70% of the transaction fee is burnt in the mechanism. I don't think it's got to the point where it's deflationary yet, but as those amount of transactions pick up, it could be very easily achieved that we end up with a deflationary token. But the worst case scenario is it's going to be 5% inflation each year. And that's assuming that we don't have any transactions. So that's where it stands, and that's where it could continue to grow. But I do genuinely believe, given the adoption that's taken up on this platform at the moment, that, you know, by the time we get into the back end of the next bull run, I'd like to see that this is, if not breaking down into deflation, it is getting close to break even on that. I've talked about how complicated the white papers and the different sections within the white papers are. This is just a boring read, this white paper. I mean, it's just one long line. It's not even pages. So it's tough to read in terms of where it's going. Its roadmap is fairly dated now, because it was written in 2019 or something like that. It had several funding rounds and it raised a lot of money. In fact, its last funding round was so oversubscribed that it crashed the website the day that it was supposed to be to launch. So they had to put it off by a week just to build it up. So yeah, it's got some popularity behind it, but I think at the moment, for me, it does seem to have been suppressed for whatever reason. Going on to the team, so they seem very experienced, very capable. You can go on to LinkedIn and have a look at them. It's got about 150 employees based out of the San Francisco office, from what I can gather. As I mentioned, I'm going to really struggle with these people's names, so apologies for butchering them. There's a former Google engineer who's one of the founders, Ilya Polysukin, I think. Ooh, bloody hell, I butchered that one. And a Microsoft developer, Alexander Skidanov, who, as they set this up in 2017, obviously they brought more people along. I'm not going to bother going through each of the positions with you, but they certainly seem all well suited for where they are. In terms of markets that you can buy it on, if you're so interested in doing that, it's all the big ones. So Binance is there, KuCoin is there, Coinbase is there, Crypto.com, Kraken, Bitstamp, Bitfinex, Bybit, OKX, Gate.io, and loads of other ones. I mean, it's just, yeah, kind of endless, really, which is what you expect of a top 50 token. But for me, you know, the fact that it's on Binance, the fact it's on Bybit, the fact it's on Kraken, kind of ticks all the boxes I need, really. So yeah, so that's good to see. Let's have a look where else we're in this. Again, this is just more deep dive into everything else is there. I mean, it's all really good information. I just trying to keep this one short-ish. So this was a interesting, it just came out a couple of days ago. State of near, so just sort of a summary of Q4. So I think it's probably worth just having a look at. Number of daily accounts is an all-time high. The total transactions are up year on year by 50%, which is great, but it's kept transactions fees below 1 cent, which is one of its goals. Transaction fees adjusted based on the network compute and bandwidth, and 70% of them are burnt, while 30% is redistributed. That's fine. TVL is distributed across Aurora and Near. But effectively, you can go on DeFi Llama and have a look at this a little bit better. But effectively, it's about 144 million that's locked up, split about 74 to 70 million. Axia validators are at an all-time high. Phase 1 of night sharding was launched on the mainnet, tripling the network's validator capacity by introducing chunk-only procedures. And that long document that I didn't bother going through explains exactly what chunk-only procedures producers are. As I vaguely remember it, it can understand very quickly whether or not this is just going to be a one-off thing and you just allocate that to itself and give it to someone, or if there's going to be quite a lot of repeat parts that come through. That actually doesn't sound like it. it made any sense to me now. I've said it again. Phase 2, which is actually the third phase that they're launching, because it was 0, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It's for release end of this year, and they want to take that capacity to 100 shards with no validators tracking all shards. So this is when it starts talking about that infinite potential. Take that with a pinch of salt. We've gone through that. There is an NFT. Oh, we've done that bit. Let's just close some of these down as we go. Shard and design. Yeah. Okay. I mean, this is all from the website. So as I say, it's pretty good. We've not even got into the wallet yet. It's just the roadmap. To say it's a little dated, this. So take that on with a pinch of salt. This is again just a post on Nightshade and what it was going to do. So this is what I was looking for. The 4 phases, and then near to infinite scale. That's what it goes on to talk about. I think it's running behind because that was due to come out in Q4 2022. So one of the things that I always find kind of interesting is mainly because we have debates about, you know, how good is an ecosystem if it doesn't have developers on there. Well, the developer report came out a couple of weeks ago, and it's a pretty lengthy report, which I didn't go through, but I watched a couple of videos on it and seen some papers written about it. And one of the things that kept on cropping up was Near. And I thought, well, we'll just sort of share a couple of those with you. But, you know, the ecosystem with 200 plus full-time developers, you know, Near has grown 22% year on year. And so we're up in this section here. This goes down to, I need to find, I wrote the page numbers down to save myself some time. And I've gone and closed my book on which page it was. There we go, 83. Sorry there. But again, you know, what you want to see is you want to see an ecosystem that actually has active developers working on this and working on 83, page 83. So again, ecosystems with over 300 developers, we're seeing that total amount of developers has increased by 41%. So people really are using this and moving over to that, which is great to see. And when I talked about its competitor and whether or not we were running into problems with Solana, I mean, Solana's got, what, 2,000 developers down there. So actually that one did increase by how much? 83%. So to be fair to it, it had a better increase last year. I'd be interested to see how that factors out now that we have had the FTX explosion and whether or not any negative repercussions on the Solana networks come out from that. I never bothered to have a look. Page 103, I'll only do this next one, but there's about another 6 more. But you kind of get the point that just proving that we are getting developers on here, they are wanting to use it and actively develop on this one. Where is so a 20x from last year. So since 2018, they've had a 20x in terms of it's been greater than a 20x full-time developers on there, which again is putting it at one of the top brackets within this section of developers. Obviously there is a higher scale you can get on. So if you're wondering why some of the ones like Ethereum and Polkadot are not there, it's just because they're in a different class. It was an interesting report. I'd never actually heard of this report until it came out, but because I was looking at things like Moonbeam and Polkadot, I just kept on stumbling across Near. I thought, great, you know, it's good to see that it's been built upon. There's plenty of other evidence that suggests that that is still the case. Right, what was I going to have a look at? Okay, so concerns. What, you know, it's all great. I've talked about all these great things. It's fair to say that this does exactly the same as what Solana does. So its closest competitor is Solana. As I mentioned, they're both written in the same programming code. So there was a question of whether or not they are fighting over those developers. We already know there's more developers on the Solana network, or certainly was at the time this report was written. But I don't know how that has moved across. That being said, it still has a very significantly developed ecosystem. I actually think there's more projects on Near than there are on Solana, though I'll double check that. But Solana, I put some notes here. Solana is super fast, it's cheaper, it is faster, it's got a strong tokenomics model. So Near is a little bit slower, but it's also cheaper, but it is much securer. It didn't have any issues. I know that Solana had some last year, and it's very easy to use. I'll go back to talk about that in a second. It's still in development, so you know, things like Nightshade isn't fully released yet, so it's also still got that potential to grow just from actually being 100% operational. So there's more things to come. So yeah, they kind of both have great features. They're both still growing. I don't really have a particular winner over them. I'm kind of just soured by Solana over what's happened over the last few months. So I've moved away from that. Didn't really feature in my portfolio anymore, and that allocation's been taken up by Near. The one thing also to mention is Near does have exposure with FTX, with 3 Hours Capital, and with Alameda Research. They all invested within it. So they all have tokens. We don't know how much. I don't know how much. But at some stage when those bankruptcies get settled, there might be a dumping of that just to pay creditors, etc. So we don't know how much that's going to be and how that might impact, or even when that would happen. But there was exposure to those three. I think the same could be said for Solana, to be fair. But for me, I'll go to the wallet, actually. So one of the things I like about the wallet, I can't do it annoyingly because you actually have to send some tokens to it, and I didn't set myself up for this wallet because it's just a brand new wallet. But you can see in the top right hand corner, you know, my wallet address is some random thing. Well, actually, Near allows you to create your own wallet address name. So I called my other one Harry's Bag. .near, that's what it is. And it's that first step I've really seen where we're starting to move away from alphanumeric 16-digit codes that can be quite difficult. The fact they're just trying to make it cleaner. The wallet itself is very simple to use. Again, I can't take you through the staking process because I don't have anything on there. It's very simple to do staking if you want to do that, set up your accounts and all that. So, and this is just the one they have. There's loads of other offshoots of Near wallets, but the fact that it's a hot wallet, I can't protect it annoyingly. If you've got a ledger, you can, but I can't do it with a Trezor. But if you have a ledger, then you can provide that extra level of protection, and then you can stake directly from here, which is what I'm doing with my tokens. So yeah, nice clean wallet to use. My thoughts on there, just finally before we go and have a look at price, etc. If I'm honest, I believe that Near token or Near protocol is the biggest slept on project in the top 50. Just my humble opinion here, in terms of what it can deliver, what it's doing, and what it's potentially capable of. The fact that, I mean, the fact it's in the top 50 is great, but the fact that it didn't really see the pump that it perhaps deserved in the 2021 bull run, I think it's just knocked the shine off it to some people, and so it's been overlooked. And so for me, this is one that I really think is going to have a great next bull run, and I really think we're going to see, you know, that $20 all-time high get obliterated and continue to climb up there. So I'm fairly bullish, and I can see why other people are bullish on their protocol. And you know, as I said, I can't advise you to buy this. I can only provide you with some information that I've found. I do obviously recommend, if it's something you're interested in, just do a little bit of digging around, have a little play with it, have a look at the price, watch some videos, join the Discord, is very active. I was on there today asking questions. Twitter's got 1.3 million followers, loads of information they're pushing out on Twitter. As I said, they've done their own videos in the past, but loads of crypto influencers have sung the praises of Near for the last 2 or 3 years. So, you know, there's plenty of videos for you to be able to watch and just digest some information and maybe form your own opinion there. I mean, we'll have a look at the charts. Sorry, Jamie, I can't start again, but you've not missed much, don't worry. So let's just zoom out onto the weekly, just see kind of where we are in terms of that. I mean, for me, it's obviously followed how we've seen with Bitcoin. What I'm kind of interested in a moment, just from a support line, we've pulled back, and this is going to be reflected when we talk about, I'll use the rectangle, we talk about other tokens, but we've kind of pulled back to, you know, those lows that we experienced in the summer 2021. And at the moment, it's a weekly candle, so 5 and a bit days to go. It's kind of found that zone, it's bounced back off. But we had that rally up there, and it's come back down. So I have further orders in and down here. I think 133 and about 168, 169, something like that, which kind of takes in sort of like wicks here and then the bottom that we've got there. And I'll just see where it goes. But I also am not afraid to buy this on the way up, if need be. The fact that I was able to get in today at like $2.08, it's a pretty good position for me to get it in there. If we sort of drop down onto kind of the daily time frame, I mean, we've had that double bottom which was obviously what Bitcoin experienced at the back end of last year, and we've rallied back up from that. We've done exactly what the rest of the alt market's done and everything else. We've ranged and we've just fallen back. What I would say is today we haven't seen the pump today in near as we have in, say, Cardano, which has flown, and even Matic and Glimmer. I've seen some really good movements there, but that's just the way alt markets sometimes move. Some move slow one day compared to the others. I'm kind of with the same opinion as I have been. Sorry if I'm a bit stuttering there. In terms of this will be dictated by how Bitcoin performs. There's nothing on near's immediate horizon which is going to kickstart this and go against how the rest of the market runs. Yes, okay, it might get some hype behind it just because people start to realize what it is and what it can do, but that could happen at any time. But it's really going to be subjected to what I think Bitcoin and to some extent Ethereum are going to do. We can always throw a fib on it if people want to see where that potentially might look, top to bottom. I mean, we're kind of resting on that 236 at the moment, but that bottom of that level is 382. I mean, if this continues on the downside, and yes, today's been a positive day, but you kind of need those breathers on the way back down. That's certainly a level I'd be looking at there. And then even the 0.5 kind of ties in with the tops of where we were in December time. So there's certainly some levels to have a look at. For those of you that really want to get lost in the daydream of where near may take you and your potential portfolio, a really good website called The Coin Perspective, which you can have a look at. So I've set it up with near at the moment, and what you can do is you can choose a token and then you can base it on whatever you want. So I could be like, okay, well, if near manages to claw back to Solana size market cap, and it would mean that one near token would be almost $10, just under, and it'll do that calculation for you, tell you what the upside is. You can go from there. Or we could have a look and say, what else would I be close to? Let's have a look at Avalanche. Avalanche is probably less, 5.7. They're going to be fairly simple. So again, it's probably like a 3x from its current position. Or, you go, okay, well, if we get the target back to all-time high, $20, I mean, that only gives it a market cap of 17.2 billion. It had that, And for a layer one protocol in the top 50, when we're in full bull market mode, a $17 billion market cap is not a particularly large amount. So also given the amount of tokens, circulating tokens, compared to the market cap. So what if it reaches BTC? Okay, well, I knew there was going to be someone to ask that. Then you'd have $500 per token, but it'd have to go up by nearly 230 times. So yeah, it might be a bit of a pipe dream, that one. Hey, who knows? You hold on for long enough.